Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so Nas Reed is headed back to Minnesota. 3 years, 42 mil, 14 mil a year with a player option on the end of that. Um, it's a good deal. It's a good deal for Nas. It's a good deal for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I like what the Timberwolves are doing this offseason. I do. For the situation they're in, they're picking up the pieces rather well, making sure that they bring back key assets that they really like on contracts that they can afford. Bringing in guys like, as we said earlier, Miller and the other guy that they drafted as well. From what I understand, is really good. I'm not familiar with the other player, but people seem to be excited about him being able to fit what they do, play some defense. And Nas Reed is obviously a piece that they really missed in the playoffs. Without having him, he broke his wrist right before the end of the season. And knowing that he was going into free agency, you just hate that for him because he knew he was going to probably be able to play in the playoffs, play in the play-in game, and ultimately get himself a little more money than he ultimately landed here. But this is still a solid situation where he's going to get paid handsomely. Still a young player. He's going to have an opportunity to play in a system that he knows very well. Obviously, it's a system that he's developed and thrived in. And, gets to stay home, basically stay where he's used to being. The Lakers obviously had some interest, other teams as well, but he opts to stay right where he's at. And I think it's a good situation for all parties involved. Um, Change isn't always easy, especially taking on new situations coming off injury. You just kind of want to go where you know in certain situations and just continue your career the way it's been thriving. A guy like Nas Reed has played well behind Carl Towns and now Rudy Gobert. And per minute, he's one of the best scoring players in the league. Him and Joel Embiid, he's right beneath him per minute since I think the All Star break. I believe it was the stat that Woj just gave us on IG. So, yeah, this is a very good player. I wanted the Lakers to take a look at him. I know it's going to be a lot of Laker Nation that's kind of bummed about this situation there, but um, we just got to move on without Nas Reed. It is what it is. We're not going to get a chance at that particular player. They took him off the map as soon as they had an opportunity to sign him, and so that's a good thing. All things considered, you believe that Minnesota has just gotten a very good contract with a very good player that possibly could win Six Man of the Year in that rotation eventually. Um, yeah, that's what I see there. Just a very, very good re-signing and an asset that I think the Timberwolves can really look at and say is a covetable asset. You know, a couple months from now, don't be surprised if Nas does get moved because that's a really good contract with a really good player that's really comfortable coming off the bench, but really capable of giving you starters production. So, for a team that doesn't have any picks, a team that doesn't have a whole lot of assets, uh, this is a very good signing to assure that they can turn him into something else or just keep him at a price that's comfortable for them. So all of this is pointing in the right direction for A Rod and crew. And yeah, I like this signing, and I like what they did in the draft as well. So far so good. Let's see what else they do. Um, Mike Conley, see if they bring him back. I don't know if that contract. Yeah, I think they have him on for another year. I think that's how that goes. But Torian Prince, players like that. See what else they can do in free agency. Maybe they can go after someone else with a little bit of money and see what they can bring on to try to help booster that overall win now team with a timeline that's very very poignant. I wonder if they trade Carl Anthony Towns here. I wonder if they don't find themselves getting involved in some type of trade, um, because I think that would ultimately help them in some ways create the flexibility they don't have while still maintaining that value for that Carl is depending on what they trade him for. Um, so that's what I'm looking at. I think Carl, although he's extremely expensive, probably going to be several teams that will want his services. A team that comes to mind very quickly is probably the Boston Celtics. They just put together um, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum. That three-point shooting center would be amazing next to Kristaps Porzingis, considering the fact that they want to shoot threes all day. Having bigs that can shoot the three leaves the lanes open for Jason Tatum to drive and shoot and do all the various different things, and they could just shoot 55 to 63s a game with bigs while their guards attack in whatever way. So that's extraordinary, to be honest with you, considering they would have to shove all that talent into three players because Jason Tatum, Corey Stubbs, Porzingis, and Carl Towns would cost a lot, but you would also be very difficult to stop, to be honest with you, offensively, particularly with those two bigs. that both play the perimeter. So I don't know if you'd be able to do that financially, but it's just the type of thing that I'd be wanting to do if I'm Missoula. Want to get as many elite 3-point shooters that are big and tall as possible next to Jason Tatum at the three, and just let them go crazy. But they got this vision that they want for Jaylen Brown, and that's exactly who I would be trading Karl-Anthony Towns for. Bringing Jaylen Brown back to Minnesota. I have my mind set on that, and then Minnesota would pay Karl Towns, Anthony Edwards, Jaylen Brown, eating up most of your cap. I don't know about wanting to pay Jaylen his price tag. That's the problem. The Celtics want to pay him that Dame contract, and I think that is just crazy. That is crazy, and I don't expect Minnesota to want to pay him that when they get him there. So no, they probably need a third spot. I'm brainstorming this because I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks, but ultimately, that's not the greatest landing spot for Jaylen Brown if he were to be traded. I'm just hell bent on trying to help the Boston Celtics understand how much they should not do that. Not at that price. Not at that price. But nevertheless, that's my mind brainstorming. I do believe they're going to do it anyway. So think nothing of that. Jaylen Brown's a Celtic and he's going to be there with a big contract. So yeah, that's the end of that. They let go of Marcus Smart with the intention of creating an opportunity to do that. But I just think that player doesn't shoot the three nearly as much as I would want my second or third overall cap holding player to be able to provide. Give me Karl, because Karl is a 3-point shooter, one of the best. You know what I mean? And that gives me the length to be able to match up with some of these teams that are building massively, which is overly necessary. So that's just what I'm looking at. Karl, I don't know if that really works, but I would do it anyway, just to make sure the Missoula Ball thing works. Porzingis, Karl Towns, and Jason Tatum. I don't know what kind of guards go come in and handle that, but we still got Malcolm Brogdon in that situation. You still have Derek White in that situation. Still got Jason Tatum in that situation, who I know could play the three, even though he's probably comfortable doing all kinds of stuff. So just get the Boston Celtics more shooters. Don't have Jaylen Brown eating the 4/5 of your cap, or 3/5 or whatever it would be. He's just eating too much, is basically what I'm saying, for what it is they're about to pay him. And we talk about it all the time. So at any rate, looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves, was just circling back around since they had nothing to do with the Boston Celtics. But I don't care. I say it anyway. I think they should be trying to do some type of deal. If they're not the ones getting Jaylen Brown, facilitating him somewhere else, and getting Karl Towns to the dang Celtics, and opening up the flexibility to further do what it is that Minnesota's already doing a pretty solid job of, which is finding something out of nothing. If they stay on this path, trade Karl Towns for some picks. It don't even have to be as many picks as they got Rudy out of there for, just half of that. Trade Karl for some picks. The way they're moving right now, they'll be able to build something pretty solid. They'll be able to build something really solid if they get lucky. But even if they're not so incredibly lucky, Anthony Edwards, Miller, McDaniels, that's a good place to start. That's not bad at all. That is not bad at all. So I would just say run with that, and the cap space that you have when you do trade away whoever, just bring in stuff that you know you can double in value. Maybe move on. They don't really have a lot of cap space, but I would want to try to upgrade from Mike Conley and try to get a younger point guard, really a point guard of a future or something. Maybe take a flyer on a guy, try to swing the bat at Orlando, maybe try to get Jalen Suggs out of there. I don't know how you would do that with your assets, but that would be something I'd want to do. Bring in somebody who might have some upside that could turn into our point guard of the future. Since we don't have any picks, gave them all away, so we got to find them another way, and that's how I would want to do it. And yeah, that's why I see Naz Reid possibly getting traded at some point, deadline or next year or something like that, because that's a good contract that can maybe help you net a piece like that. Mike Conley, I don't think can. That's another reason why I didn't really support them bringing in Mike Conley, nor did I want the Lakers to, because I don't think you can really retrade him for nothing. At least if the Lakers re-signed D'Angelo Russell, we have intentions of knowing we can get something for him. Conley, it depends how well he's playing. He's not very young, so that's what really hurts you. He's a dead asset for a team that doesn't need dead assets. He's not a dead asset, but not an ascending one in value. It's dying, basically. So it's like that's why you don't do that. That's exactly why you don't do that. You do trade D'Lo, but you don't bring back somebody like that in this situation. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, it helped him in the short term. Maybe it even helped him this year to have Mike Conley on tab because he's a sturdy piece. But you're a win now team with very few assets. You can't afford to just be okay. You got to be going for the gusto to the best of your ability. And I think if you could get something from Mike Conley right now for one of those young guys, if you could somehow land you most of those people don't want to be paid, but I'm thinking like Kevin Porter Jr., somebody of the future that could play the point guard role. Even a Peyton Pritchard, somebody like that. Just get you a point guard of the future that you can stick in there that's young, that could run around with Anthony Edwards, however that goes. The first person that came to mind when I initially started this conversation was Fred VanVleet, but they would never be able to afford him unless they free up that Karl Towns money. I'm not even considering trading Rudy Gobert because you're not getting nothing for him. I'm just telling the truth. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to trade him for him. Not after what you paid for him. There's no price tag that's going to make that even make sense, and I don't think it's in the takers. That's why you were the team that landed him, because nobody else wanted him. So that's another reason why the price tag shouldn't have been paid. Who are you bidding against? Paying that price tag for Rudy Gobert, I have to ask, who the hell else wanted Rudy Gobert to allow you to push all that stuff over to Utah? Who are you bidding against? Just a bad decision all the way around. But they're doing good things now. And so as we look at this situation, we don't look at the mistake that was made. We look at the cleanup. And so far, the cleanup's been pretty good for the Timberwolves. I like the re-signing of Naz Reid. And, of course, the things we said already in the draft. Hopefully they're doing some good things in the free agent market. How do you call it? The undrafted market is what I'm trying to say. All the youngsters that didn't get drafted, hopefully they're getting their handful of them. Have a G League affiliate of some sort. I don't keep up with everybody's, but Minnesota should be on top of that. And as they do, I think they'll build their way out of this hole with a very fresh young Anthony Edwards that they may not have to trade after all in order to fix this situation. He may not demand out after all in order for this to be all right. So, I would move Karl right away. I would bring Anthony someone that he would want to play with right now that fits his game. I'm thinking, man, it would have been great if they could have somehow gotten in the first round with some miraculous way and got Cam Whitmore, because that's a really good spot for Cam Whitmore if Karl Towns is going out. Think about a place where you could just attack, dunk, do all his athleticism and not get in nobody's way other than Rudy Gobert, who you don't care at all. You just don't care. That would be a nice place to start. If I could put Cam Whitmore next to Anthony Edwards, I would feel great about that. Not that I have any chance of doing that whatsoever. I'm just wishing upon a star. That's the type of player I'd want him next to. That's the type of athleticism that he deserves to really be running with. Shaedon Sharpe. Yeah, heck yeah. In a perfect world, you trade Anthony Edwards for Damian Lillard and put Anthony Edwards in Portland and let him fly around with all those super athletes that are up there. That's what I would love to see. Now, there ain't no path to that. Nobody's doing that. I don't think Minnesota sees the fruit in doing that. I don't think Dame Lillard wants to go to Minnesota. I'm not telling anybody I've heard anything. I don't want anybody to think anything other than me making up stuff in my mind. That's all I'm doing. But in my mind, that's what I want to see. Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Edwards, Scoot Henderson. That's what I want to see. That is what I'll pay to see. Anthony Edwards in Houston, down there with those guys. Even though they have so many of them, it's too many of them. At this point, he'd be taking what? Green spot? They already got him down. That's why they're not necessarily the best fit. Although that's the type of talent you want to see him running with. Jumpers, leapers, scorers, shooters. That's what Anthony Edwards needs. He needs a whole team full of that. Duplicate Jaden McDaniels 7 more times in Minnesota, and you'll really be on to something. That's the type of team I want to see him around. Not old dinosaurs, bro. What are we doing? tall shooting dinosaur, slow. Big shot blocking dinosaur, slow. Old man shooting, kind of real smart point guarding. It's cool. You got Torian Prince, nice average floor spacer. That stuff ain't none of that. It's good enough to win some games in the NBA, but it's not good enough to showcase Anthony Edwards like he's supposed to be showcased. I'm sorry, you need some lobbers, some dunkers, some big forwards that can fly, shoot the ball. I want to see all that. I want to see Taylor Hendricks next to him. I want to see all them dudes that just got drafted. Anthony Black should be his point guard, like all that. Jalen Hood-Schifino should be his point guard, all that. Anthony Edwards needs to be on a young team, you guys. That's what I'm here to say. I wouldn't be mad if he went over there and played in Brooklyn with some of them dudes. It's just not the right setting for him in Minnesota right now based on what it is they dreamt up to put around it. Big 7-footers. No, get Carl out of there, put him in a shooting situation, send him down to Phoenix to play with those shooters or something. Do something else with Carl. Put him in a space where that actually fits who he is now, which is the best three-point shooting, three-point center in the game. That's who he is right now. You got him playing the 4 spot or something like he's supposed to be Anthony Davis. He is not. He is a natural 5. That boy is built like a real 5. He is not Wembanyama. He ain't none of that. He is built like one of the old school 5s. So you got to put him in positions to not be asked to do all kind of stuff that is not Karl Towns. It's least of all playing a damn 4. No. He is not Evan Mobley. He ain't none of that. He's a 3-point shooter and needs to be parking it. And if you let him do that, then you'll see the rest of his game open up because he's Karl Towns. And he'll attack the rim when it's time. But to get the most out of him, I want that boy shooting 4 threes a game. 4 threes attempted a game for the best 3-point shooting center in the history of the sport. That's what you need. More shooting for that particular center. People like Joel Embiid be like, nah, don't shoot so much because you're not overly talented doing it. You be solid. Bron, nah, we don't want you shooting threes like that. No, get in the paint. But Carl, that's it. That's all I need him doing. I want him back there shooting more than he actually does. And so that's my vision. That's why I'm trying to send him to the Celtics. And if I ain't send him to the Celtics, you know where else I send him? GSW. Send Carl to Golden State, where he belongs. Send him to Dallas, where they shoot the ball. That is where I want to see Carl go. Get him out of Minnesota. I'm tired of this. Get Karl Towns out of Minnesota. Enough. I want him traded today. And I want him traded to one of those spots where they shoot the ball. Hell, send him to the Clippers. Trade him for Kawhi Leonard or something where they shoot the ball. That's what I got to say, man. It's just been on my mind lately. Like, why is Karl Towns still in Minnesota? Why? There's nothing there for him. The system don't fit. The kid then usurped him. They ain't even his team no more. They brought in another center, got him playing a foul forward. Get him out of there. He don't need to be there no more. They ain't got no assets, so they can't bring enough to him to make any sense. What the hell are we doing? Get him out of there. So that's what I want to see happen, man. Hopefully he'll be moved in the same trade that Ayton is moved in. And that'll facilitate a lot of things. That you could send him to Phoenix, where he probably would be best, even though I think they need a defensive center. At the end of the day, Karl Towns is an upgrade from DeAndre Ayton, and ain't nobody going to argue that. Even if neither one of them play no defense, it's no question. It's an upgrade there. And the spacing is the best spacing ever. The spacing is the best spacing ever. And Karl can rebound the ball, and he can block shots, even though his defense is not that good. I like him better than Ayton. I like him better than Ayton every way. So that's just the end of that. Ayton still got to find some place to play, and judging by what we saw, I don't know where that would be. I actually don't hate putting him next to a guy like Wembanyama, to be honest with you. I don't hate that, because Webb's going to want to play the perimeter. So that might not be the worst type of thing. He could be in an athletic type of front court with him and Wembanyama. I don't know if Ayton fits there really. But I don't want Wembanyama playing the 4. And I don't want a non-scoring center next to Wembanyama. Not necessarily. Asking Webb to do too much too soon. That's why I want that person to be able to score. And that person don't need to be overly defensive because Wembanyama's there. So that's where I looked at Ayton and said, okay, that might be decent. He might get enough offensive touches in the paint, enough offensive touches in his spots, enough of a focal point, but still enough space to not have all the defense coming up to him. Type of situation I want Ayton in. But I don't know if he's much of a dog, enough of a dog to want to slap him next to Wembanyama at the price tag he gonna be on. Nah, I don't think so. But I'm just looking for certain situations where Ayton would fit, and I don't know if I'm not coming up empty early on in my thoughts of it. Maybe he had to replace somebody like Jakob Poeltl in Toronto. I don't know if I don't why I would want that. Maybe going to Phoenix. New York, the other orange team, replace Juju. I don't know. Not replace Juju, but maybe replace, Mitchell Robinson. Even though I like Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks, the Knicks can afford to free up some bigs because they got too many of them. They do. They got to get rid of somebody. Toppin, Juju, the other guy behind him that also jumps out the gym. They got to figure that out. But nevertheless, if I'm Phoenix and I want to move on from Ayton, the type of center I want is Mitchell Robinson. I guess is what I'm trying to say. The Phoenix, they really do need to get that center, man. They need, just like we were talking about earlier in the Phoenix video, they need to get that center. Because if they're gonna run around with Ayton like this, going to be the solution to their situation, we've already seen how that goes. That's not going to be a thing that catches anybody off guard when it fails. He just ain't going to do nothing in that system. He's already shown he ain't happy there. Bringing in Bradley Beal's just one more person keeping him from getting his touches. I don't particularly think it looks all that great at all. I mean, he's just a guy by name. It's just a name. Now, if they can get that point guard, John Wall, that'll be cool. John Wall's, of course, coming off the bench because you got to still start those three guards. Or two guards. They're going to be starting there. So it's, unless somebody's playing the three out of them. Booker playing the three. Bradley maybe played the three. KD played a four. That's what we're trying to avoid. So I don't know, man. Phoenix can definitely find themselves running with campaign if they can get John Wall. That's a nice little two-man point guard situation. It ain't the worst thing in the world. You can definitely feel good about it. With so little assets attached to you, you're going to have to feel good about it. That's why Phoenix is such a headache. And for those who think they're going to be an NBA champion or something like that, I'm telling you that I'm having a hard time even finding a good, decent rotation in their second unit. You know what I mean? Like, y'all talking about they're going to win a championship. Who the hell is playing defense? Like, they're going to have to score 180 points just to win. And so, yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. I actually like Minnesota's situation better. Looks like I was telling y'all this morning. I do. I think Minnesota, for two teams that have mortgaged their futures and did things that they shouldn't have did, Minnesota is still in a much, much better spot. They look great. Re-signing Naz Reid. The Phoenix wish they had a Naz Reid. You feel me? They don't have no damn Naz Reid. And that's another thing I wanted to say. Like, it just overall adds to the Minnesota's class getting back Naz Reid, because now you do have two legitimate trade pieces that someone would really genuinely want. Actually, three. If Miller plays to the level that we think he's going to play at, definitely. And then McDaniels, most definitely. And, of course, Naz Reid. Now, of course, Anthony Edwards is obvious to cream the crop, and Karl Towns too, but we're not talking about their stars. We're talking about other stuff that they could possibly trade in order to create flexibility so they can keep all that stuff. That's what we're referring to. So I don't look at Taurean Prince as somebody who's going to net you anything at all. Not if the GM on the other end knows what the hell he's doing. He ain't going to net you nothing. Some of those other guys, we like some of those dudes, but nah. What they own that is worth something is what I just said. That's it. Everything else, nah, it's not worth nothing. And so that is really what I got to say. That's a great signing for Minnesota. I'm sure they're very pleased to get him back. That is best case scenario if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves GM. Having him re-sign is, you're thanking your lucky stars for sure. So that's pretty much what I got, man. Salute the Kobe Minute. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.